happening, everybody, and welcome back to the Anita Best podcast. Hope you're having a lovely day or night, or never the fuck you're listening to me. So today we have a nice and short podcast, Failure Files 2.0, where we include some of the conversations we've had on failure from the last 10 episodes, which have made up season 3. I also included a conversation with Chris in there because we didn't include it in the last one, and he's fucking dope, and it needs to be in there. So as we always harp on about, I guess, failure, people not doing because they're scared of failure. And so I like to just collect evidence to show that there is absolutely no such thing really as failure, and there's nothing on the other side of failure which is bad. And so many people don't do because they're scared to fail, but all that's going to happen is you don't do. And all that's going to happen is that in a few years you're going to face regret, and you're going to think, why did I not do the thing that I wanted to do? I was scared to fail. Why was I scared to fail? I was scared to look like an idiot. Why? Because I care about what people think of me indirectly. Okay, cool. I don't think anyone who actually gives a fuck about my well-being would care if I quote-unquote failed through trying. You know what I mean? So a lot of people aren't doing because they're scared of failure, and they're scared of other people's opinions. In fact, you don't want to feel like a failure or say that you failed after, or if you're scared of what people think of you. I think just fast forward your life mentally to being an old person or go hang out with an old person or go hang out at the nursing homes and just think, fuck, if I was that old, would I be worried what people would think of me? If I think of myself 40 years prior or so, would I just be like, well, I wish I just would have done because it's the worst that could have happened, you know? So the only thing that comes from not going after what you think you should get is regret. And I feel like that is probably going to be the most painful thing at the end of our lives. And just thinking, no shit, why didn't I try? Or like, no one cares, I don't care. Or like, I would give anything to have that time back now. But you're limiting yourself because you're scared of what may happen, the failure that may come. But there's nothing on the other side of failure. You still wake up the next morning, you still do the exact same things. You just be like, oh, cool. And you would have tried and you would have learned. So I think that's the general message of all these podcasts. Now I'm going to play 4 segments from some of the episodes of the podcast about failure. I always say to people, there's no such thing as failure, only lessons. So many people wouldn't have done what you've done, moving countries multiple times, etc., because they think it may not work out. And if it doesn't, then they're a failure. But to them, I would say that just rids them of an experience, and they only get to live their current life forever, and they already know what they're going to get. So you personally, I want to ask, what's your opinion on failure or not doing something because being scared of failing?
Even that word just triggers me so much because what is a failure? You know, it's again just that label that people would tell you when you were younger. Aha, if you don't succeed in soccer, like you're a failure. And so that's the conditioning. So for me, honestly, there is no such thing as failing. Like, yes, maybe I failed in according to somebody else's, like, how to say, definition of it. When you met me, I mean, I lost my job. I separated from my ex-husband. I lived with a toxic person who caused me like physical trauma, and I was like what I would call that rock bottom. But for me, it wasn't a failure. For me, it was a beautiful opportunity to say, not God, why are you doing this to me? But like, God, what are you trying to teach me? And it was teaching me, honestly, to finally start appreciating myself, loving myself unconditionally, and to start following my heart and traveling. Like, it started by booking those small trips to Austin, then to New Orleans, and then my journey just took off, and I started like upgrading my life. I said, I will never live with another person. So I got my own apartment, took that risk, and just kept taking risks in life for that higher reward, because I think the universe, God, call it whatever, sees what kind of humans we are and what we have been through. And then life is not just survival. So we will get our reward, but you got to take that risk first.
Yeah. Now that's beautiful. And as you said, rock bottom, but really it pivoted you to all of this. Like if you were like, oh, poor me, sucking your sorrow, or if you hung in the relationship just to hang in it, like you would still be there, not literally traveling through Tulum, you're thinking about going to India, now you're going to Colorado, do your training, and you're like happy, like it's a failure to some, or maybe to your mum, oh, I'm no longer in my marriage, oh, you're a failure, and you take that on if you were to take that on, but it's not a failure, it's a fucking redirect. If it was meant to be, it wouldn't, it didn't, okay, cool.
Completely. And then my life is my responsibility. I said, you just mind your business and let me be. Like, don't induce me with your projections or fear.
Yeah.
That's all I'm at. Like, always setting, healthy boundaries with people. That's really important in life, so that we can literally keep following the path.
Yeah, exactly. And not let somebody maybe potentially get in your head and sway you and say, you can't do that, because you obviously don't have proof that you can do it because you've never done it before. And that's what I say. Exactly. It's hard to be like, yes, I can. And they're like, well, what's your proof? Nothing. Fuck, you're right. And they're like, well, this is proof to work, money and house. You're like, no, I can't explain it, but I'm going. And that's weird as hell.
Because we get so caught up in that, like what other people are doing, or putting labels on ourselves, like needing to know the answer if someone asks us, what are you doing? And for me, it was quite the opposite. It was like, I'm becoming. I want to be nothing and everything, so I can just be in this world like that, serving my purpose. And my purpose is that El Camino, which this lady who's a shaman told me, to just travel around and shed my light on others. And I'm like, that's who I am. I'm a little fairy or something, and I'm okay. I'm finally living in my whimsical world of like not having to be like a businesswoman, or that doesn't define me at all.
That's amazing. And I think that's a fucking wicked point as well, which I haven't really even thought about that. Because, sometimes you think if you're not aiming for something, or you can't like label it, not that you are, but you feel pointless. Or if people are like, what do you do? And to me, I fucking hate that question, because it's like, it doesn't matter what I do. And you're going to judge me. But it's like, what do you do? And some people are It's like, no, I'm just doing and being, and I experience and I move, and I experience and I move. And so many people try and make you feel like bad for that as well. But like, oh, you'll settle down one day, and you're like, and half of you people who say that aren't really even happy. You just want me to say something, like, because it means I'm older now. But like, oh, you grow up. Be like, but I'm happy as hell.
Right. All of those expectations also, like for my family, for example, wow, you're 30 now. Like, what do you want? Like my mom was expecting me to, but just come to Germany, have your own car and your own apartment. Like that defines my level of success. And, like I mentioned with my failed marriage, like when are you going to find a man or get married again or have children? And it's like, none of those questions matter to me anymore. Of course, I'm thinking about it. I would love to be a mother and stuff like that. But right now it's time for myself. Like, how can we be a little more selfish in a way and just constantly practice that self-love so we can be better humans for ourselves and others, our families, and serve as an example of, like, what's possible when you just, like, let it be like that.
They're scared of failure. So failure is like a really common thing that I try and talk about with people I have on. And to people, I just say that you kind of like have to fail. It's part of the process. Like you're never going to be in a situation where you're like, I want to do this, and it works the first time and it's great and you make lots of money in the end. So what's your opinion on failure when trying to get where you have to get?
Well, I think perfectionism kills every dream that you ever have, because you're never going to do it perfectly the first time. So to try to do that, you will never get anywhere. I heard there was an amazing quote that my friend Tracy Spencer said. It was, love yourself enough to do the things that you want to do in the world, knowing that you were stuck.
Yeah.
And it's like, just be okay with stucking for a bit. But it's a measured suck, because I feel as though people try and make the jump really quick.
Yeah.
It's like, you're here and you want to get all over there, and then you fall into something called the gap. It's like that feeling of that huge stress of, I'm this person and I'm looking to be that person, but that is such a big leap for me to do. So there's a lot of anxiety that lives within that space.
Yeah.
I think what's really important is to just do the next step outside of your comfort zone. So just stretch yourself just that little bit where you feel a bit stretchy, but you're not having a panic attack.
Yeah.
and then you get to that point, and then you're like, okay, this is now my new comfort zone. What can I do to stretch that a little bit more? This is now my new comfort zone. What can I do to stretch that a little bit more? So, for example, like even something like talking to you on a podcast is something that once upon a time, if I thought of, really scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
But first it started with me just pre-recording a quick video without me speaking on my social media.
Yeah.
And then I was comfortable with that. Then it was like, okay, well, now I can use my voice, but I need to pre-record it. And then once I got good with pre-recording, and then I did a live video, and then I did this, and I did that. And then eventually, I'm speaking on stage in front of hundreds of people, and it's something I love to do. But you don't just go from sitting in your office chair by yourself to speaking on stage in front of all these people overnight. Like, it just doesn't happen that way.
Yeah. No, that is so true as well. And I often say that, and that's so cool, like, because people obviously see you on the stage now and be like, oh, she's just gifted and lucky at that. But they have no idea that it's not all these little steps that you've done by yourself, and you didn't just be like, I want to get up on stage. And you did it. Like, it's practice and all the things that you do behind closed doors. And, I always say that too, like, don't overwhelm yourself. Like, why are you bothering with thinking about like the end goal? Like, I always reference it to like when I competed, when I first couldn't even lift 2 kilos over my head, when I was like, I'm going to get on stage, I'd just be like, and then every single thing I'd spend my days worrying, like, why am I doing this? I'm pathetic, I'm stupid. Then I'm like, let's just focus on the next step and don't even fucking think of like the months down the track, because what's the point? Like, you're just going to scare yourself because you can't be that person today. And that's true. And to bring it back to the failure in the beginning, like, that is so true as well, and so important that people understand that you're going to fail. Like, you have to, and you have to try different things, and you have to see what works and what doesn't work. And like, failing is good for that, because there's some things that you think may be a great idea, and you like look back now like that was not it. Like, even in business, there's some things I used to do for marketing, I'll be like, this is the coolest idea, and then looking back, I'm like, that was never going to work. Like, what the?
Yeah, and isn't it funny looking back? You're like, I cannot believe I did that.
Yeah.
But then also, like, good on me for doing it, because it's like your playground. You got to figure it out.
Yeah,
it's just part of it, and you that's the climb, like Miley Cyrus.
Yeah,
it's all about the climb.
Yeah. And it is. And that's what's also important to be something that you do like doing as well. I also say that because failure is so prominent that, like, if it's something you don't like to do, when you get that initial failure, you'd be like, oh, see, there's the proof it wasn't going to work at the end. Whereas if it's something that you actually want to do and you actually believe in, you'll be like, okay, that's just a way it's not going to work. What's my next option? Now I've weeded out that, like, next. But if you don't like it and you're not passionate, you're just going to see the failure as, okay, the stop. Whereas if it's the only thing that you want to do with your life, there's no stop. It's just the next thing after that. So failure.
Yeah, you got to pivot.
Exactly.
You're wanting to embody more of, so that you can see what is possible for you. And it's like that theory of the average of the people you hang around the most. So if you're wanting to step into something, step into confidence, whatever it is, surround yourself with that all around you, and that will become more of the norm.
Yeah.
Also, I think it's just really important to in your smaller community as well, to have people that support you and are very much for you and for your happiness, and that don't bring you down, because that can be a really hard thing when you're doing something that is difficult and it's out of your comfort zone, and there's other people not supporting you in your realm. And then doing a shit ton of inner child work, like healing the wounds, that these scars that told you that you're not good enough, that told you that you don't deserve to be confident and to get what you want in this world and to play in this world. I did a great course with Lacey Phillips to be magnetic, which was all about the manifestation course, but the manifestation was based on what you feel that you deserve because of your inner child. Yeah. And so it was really about healing all of that. I mean, that's a full rabbit hole in itself.
Alrighty. So you were very successful in your business, in your personal business, in my opinion, or in fucking anyone's who looks at what you're doing. So people see the end result and not the come up. So everyone fails in life, and I always mention there really is no success without failure. That's in order to get what we want. It's just inevitable. Like there's never going to be a day that you're like, I want to do this, you get it straight away and all is well. Like failure is just the thing. I've fucking bombed at many things and it's all just led to where you need to be. So what's your opinion on this and failure in business and getting where you want in life?
I would 100% agree. I always say if you learn the lesson, then you never fail. I've always been a chaser of a silver lining and finding the magic in life. So I guess throughout that mindset, I've always managed to be grateful for the lessons that each failure has brought me. Yeah. Obviously, it doesn't feel great at the time, but
which is what's happening.
So I guess I'm very blessed that I have a lot of support from my teachers and my students, and that I've actually managed to avoid a lot of hiccups within this business. I've tried other businesses, but I guess this is probably my life's purpose. So that's why it feels like it's a little bit easier, I guess.
Yeah, and I was going to say, do you think it's probably just because you're moving in line with what you're supposed to be doing? Because similar, I tried so many businesses, but just like shit for money's sake, like so many, and they just bombed because I just didn't care. And when I was doing what I actually want, it was effortless because you would just work on it because you were generally interested, and eventually it was like something else took control and it pushes you. So yeah, although you've tried other businesses, I feel, as you said, it's your life purpose, or you're so fucking good at it that like it has to work because it's your thing.
I feel like a lot of people ask me, because I do work like a part-time job as well, and everyone's like, how do you work during the day and then teach at night? But twerk gives me energy, and I give good energy and then I get good energy back. So it's really, it really doesn't feel like work to me. It feels very inspiring, and I just love it. So I couldn't stop if I tried.
No, I wouldn't be able to.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, that would be, for me, I think the biggest thing is, and also too, like you've already touched on, that's why I loved your podcast, like how to start things and not give a fuck about what other people think. And I support that. I approve that message so hard. It's like, there's not enough like or heart buttons or whatever I can get going. It's like, it's one of those things. It's like, that's the other piece of advice is, my God, like how shitty is it to spend your life caring about what other people think? And you touched on those people that judge you. Like, I mean, everything that I've started, I've always had so many fucking haters come out of the woodwork. And, you know, I'm really into Carl Jung's work and also Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, because to me, the hero's journey, and for your listeners that aren't familiar with it, Joseph Campbell wrote about mythology and, you know, how every great hero story always followed sort of a template. You know, there's a person who gets a call to adventure. You can either answer that call to adventure or you can stay in your comfort zone. And throughout your life, you're going to get several calls to adventure. You don't need to accept them all, but the ones that call to you, answer them and go for it and be ready, because the haters, which as Campbell use the analogy dragons. The dragons are going to come out, but the dragons are actually your friends. All those haters are your friends because they're challenging you. How bad do you want this? You know, are you going to be a little bitch and you're going to cower and run at the first person that says, oh, well, you're just making money on ayahuasca retreats. You don't care about helping people. You only care about the money. And it's like, that's why I tell people my personal story. No. There's lots of other things I could be doing. I'm doing this because I fucking love it. And I see the benefit. So don't come and hate on me. And it's all those people. Like, I remember when we first did our first round of social media marketing, and the hate, it was like a landslide of, you're exploiting these poor Indigenous people. And I was like, actually, no, I'm helping. I'm actually helping their community. And then I had one person said, you're exploiting our culture. And I look at them, I look at their media platform. They're from fucking New York. I'm like, what culture am I? They're like, what are you talking about? It's like, you're exploiting our culture. I'm like, pretty sure I'm not exploiting your culture. Like, but anyway, yeah. So that's the other advice. One to the younger self is definitely focus on things that are getting to you mentally and emotionally, because they will chew you up and eat you alive if you don't deal with them. And the other one, don't give a fuck about what other people think. There are so many haters. No matter what you do, people are going to tell you it's wrong, and they're going to judge, and they don't know you. And it's like, I listen to a lot of Rogan. I know you do too. And it's like, it's just those things, after a while you stop reading the comments.
Yeah.
I embrace my attention goes to people who are excited to have a great experience and work on themselves and try to help their communities and try to do good things. The people that are hating, I'll smile and wave. I'll try not to hate them back, although that's really fucking hard sometimes. I'll try not to hate them back and run into them in person and want to punch them in the face and all that stuff. But I just continue to focus on the good. I'd rather put my energy on the people that support me.